It began with a flicker, a subtle anomaly dancing across the sensors of the spacecraft. At first, no one paid attention. After all, space is full of oddities, debris, flickers of light. But then came the image, not from a multi-billion-dollar observatory, but from a backyard telescope in Australia, where comet expert Michael Maciato captured a spectacle that stunned even NASA. Join us on the enigmatic journey of why. As we delve into another mystery surrounding, new update, 100x bigger object just entered our solar system and it's hunting 3I/Atlas. An object with a tail so massive it stretched across the sky, 5 full moons wide, was suddenly there blazing toward the sun. But this wasn't just another interstellar visitor. It was something far bigger, far brighter, far more terrifying than anything we had ever encountered before. And just like that, the shadow of 3I/Atlas was eclipsed because now a new contender had entered the arena, one that dwarfed Atlas not only in size, but in mystery. Officially named C/2025 R2 Swan, this new object is not behaving like a comet, not acting like an asteroid, and certainly not moving like something that belongs in our solar system. Instead, it's emitting pulses, glowing with structured energy patterns. And most disturbingly, it appears to be following a schedule. The James Webb Telescope turned its gaze toward this cosmic colossus, hoping to reveal the truth. What it found changed everything because this isn't a rock. This is a machine. When astronomers first spotted Swan R2 on September 12, 2025, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Using the SWN instrument aboard the spacecraft, they detected an object moving with extreme precision and luminosity. But 2 days later, things escalated. The amateur image captured by Maciato showed something previously thought impossible, a tail stretching 2.5 degrees across the sky. That's the width of 5 full moons side by side. It dwarfed the tail of 3I/Atlas and drew immediate attention from the scientific community. The International Astronomical Union rushed to classify it. But naming it wasn't the problem. Understanding it was. This wasn't just an icy body streaking past the sun. This was something different. When scientists compared it to 3I/Atlas, the difference wasn't just in size. It was in structure, speed, and behavior. While 3I/Atlas appeared to exhibit thrust-like emissions, Swan R2 had a glowing plasma shield reflecting and bending the solar wind, a shield, not ice. And then came the orbit. It wasn't just passing by. It was returning. Swan R2 orbits the Sun once every 22,554 years, longer than the entire span of human civilization. That's when the questions truly began because objects don't follow orbits like that unless they're programmed to. James Webb, armed with its unmatched spectroscopic instruments, turned toward Swan R2 as it neared perihelion. What it found shattered every known category in astronomy. The spectral data showed a composition of nickel-cobalt alloy, an ultra-dense metallic structure never observed in nature, but often theorized in advanced engineering models. Even more alarming was the discovery of plasma emissions, tightly controlled and emitted in pulses, not the chaotic flares of natural comets. The tail wasn't ice vapor. It was exhaust, dense, controlled, and chemically tuned. It contained carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, yes, but also dense streams of ionized nickel plasma. These weren't natural releases. They were thrust events, tiny corrections in trajectory, and the color shift from red to white-green during acceleration. That's not something nature does. That's the signature of a plasma drive adjusting its burn. Webb confirmed what many feared. This object is powered. It has a core, and that core emits more than 10,000 gigawatts per second, a power level comparable to 2 black holes colliding, contained inside a ship. As Swan R2 accelerates toward the Sun, another mystery unfolds. Its trajectory is not random. It is precisely calculated to converge with 3I/Atlas at almost the exact same time, October 2025. On a cosmic scale, this is near impossible timing. Swan R2 is coming from Aquarius. 3I/Atlas emerged from Sagittarius. Different origins, different vectors. Yet now their orbits are converging within 50 million kilometers of each other and shrinking fast. What are the odds? Two interstellar objects from opposite directions meeting behind the Sun where no telescope on Earth can see them. This isn't coincidence. This is choreography. Some scientists believe Swan R2 was sent to intercept 3E Atlas to retrieve it, destroy it, or initiate contact. Others believe both are part of a network, a surveillance system that operates on time scales far beyond human history. If that's true, the Sun is not just a star in their path. It is the focal point, the source, the gate. And these probes, these machines, are responding to something we did. Perhaps our signals, perhaps our technology, or maybe simply because it's time. Here's where the story becomes even more unsettling. Archaeologists like Graham Hancock have proposed that Swan R2 may have passed near Earth once before, roughly 22,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. And that's precisely when humanity began building monuments, star maps, and aligned pyramids that point directly to Orion, Aquarius, and the ecliptic path of the Sun. Were they tracking Swan R2? Were those ancient builders warning us of its return? Some believe so. The precision of ancient structures, the Great Pyramid, Göbekli Tepe, the Mayan calendars, all seem to suggest an awareness of cosmic cycles we only now begin to understand. If Swan R2 has returned, it means that what we call myths may have been memories, records of the last encounter. And perhaps this time we're not just watching it fly by. This time we might be involved in whatever happens next. Just 72 hours after the James Webb team published a redacted version of their findings on Swan R2, a wave of global retractions followed. NASA removed key spectral data sets from public servers. The European Space Agency issued a vague press release calling Swan R2 an unusual but explainable cometary object, and China's National Astronomical Observatory simply stated that their instruments were under maintenance. What caused this sudden synchronized blackout? According to an anonymous source within the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, several agencies were briefed on a classified memo circulating among Five Eyes intelligence nations. The memo warned of technological signatures inconsistent with natural origin and cited propulsive anomalies, symmetrical structure beneath the coma, and time-variable emissions suggestive of intentional maneuvering. In short, Swan R2 may not be a comet, and someone out there is trying to control the narrative. But the silence only fueled more speculation, especially because in that same time window, NASA quietly adjusted the orientation of Voyager 1's communications array, pointing it near Swan R2's projected path. Why? What were they trying to hear or warn? As Swan R2 approached the Sun, deep space radio telescopes from SETI and independent observatories in Chile and South Korea began to detect a low-frequency signal riding on the object's plasma tail. At first, it was dismissed as magnetospheric noise. But as researchers ran pattern analysis, the pulse revealed something disturbing. It wasn't random. The pulses were mathematical, repeating, symmetrical, and between bursts, they followed the Fibonacci sequence, a universal code found in the spiral of galaxies, the design of DNA, and the growth of sea shells. These were not emissions of a dying comet. These were instructions, or worse, communication. Even more disturbing, the intervals between bursts were shrinking. Something was counting down. And the last burst, labeled Burst 8 by SETI, had a sudden power spike equivalent to a solar flare despite coming from deep space. As if the object was not just broadcasting, but preparing for something. Behind closed doors, several military space programs activated contingency protocols. The United States Air Force Space Command ordered the repositioning of secret surveillance satellites. Russia launched a sudden unscheduled rocket from the Placets Cosmodrome with an unknown payload reportedly heading toward the ecliptic plane. And China? Satellite data showed a fleet of nanocats altering their orbits to form a net-like pattern above Earth's northern hemisphere. Why all this movement? According to leaked briefings from the French Ministry of Defense, multiple nations believe Swan R2 may contain autonomous threat potential. Not necessarily a weapon, but something that could trigger chain reactions if it passes too close to the Sun. Some theorists argue it could be a relay node, a gravitational switch, or even a cosmic key designed to unlock something hidden in the sun's magnetic field. Attempts to send reconnaissance craft have reportedly failed due to trajectory mismatches and excessive solar radiation. But the most chilling piece of information came from a recently uncovered conversation between two retired engineers from the Deep Space Network. "We didn't build Voyager 1 to just leave the solar system. We built it to watch what comes in." As the James Webb Telescope continued scanning Swan R2's structure, engineers noticed something no one expected. Beneath the bright coma and the electromagnetic tail, there was symmetry, radial geometry, fractal scaling, and a series of concentric arcs echoing the same golden ratio found in its signal pulses. In other words, this object has architecture. Webb spectrometry revealed periodic dips in reflected light intensity, similar to how we detect exoplanet transits, indicating a layered engineered surface. The data points to something multi-chambered with metallic reinforcement and possibly even thermal insulation properties. Even more disturbing, several scans revealed open voids consistent with empty cavities, potentially hollow chambers or energy conduits. The object may be massive, but it's not solid. It's engineered for efficiency, perhaps to traverse interstellar space, absorb stellar energy, or contain something at its core. No asteroid, no comet, no natural formation has ever displayed these properties. Which leaves us with only one terrifying question: who built it? As Swan R2 accelerated past Mercury's orbit, astronomers prepared for what they thought would be a brief occultation, a simple passage behind the sun that would last a few days. But instead of reappearing on the other side, Swan R2 vanished completely. Telescopes expected to regain visual contact by mid-October. They saw nothing. No coma, no trajectory, no signal. For 6 days, the object was simply gone. It wasn't until a Chilean solar observatory equipped with ultraviolet detection picked up a sudden burst of high-frequency ion radiation that scientists realized Swan R2 had reappeared. But hundreds of thousands of kilometers off course, now approaching the sun's southern pole, a region where solar magnetic field lines fold in on themselves like a Mobius strip. Why would a so-called comet alter course like that? Why move into a region known for gravitational anomalies? Some suggest it was a gravitational slingshot maneuver, but others argue something far stranger. Swan R2 entered a region of the sun we barely understand, one that may conceal an interdimensional gateway. The question is, did it do so intentionally? At exactly 303 UTC on October 17, just as Swan R2 passed closest to the sun's magnetic fold, space weather monitors recorded a sudden gamma-ray burst, not from a distant galaxy, but from within our own heliosphere. It lasted only 0.7 seconds, but during that blink in time, it released more energy than the entire sun emits in 48 hours. This was unprecedented. What made it more terrifying was the directionality. Unlike solar flares, which scatter in all directions, this gamma burst had a clear vector, as if aimed. It passed through Earth's orbital plane, triggering minor disruptions in satellite navigation systems and even affecting deep-sea communications cables. But here's where it gets worse. When researchers overlaid the burst's origin with the last known trajectory of Swan R2, they matched perfectly. Something on or inside the object had either absorbed solar energy and released it, or it somehow interacted with the sun itself. In either case, what we're seeing is no longer just movement. It's manipulation. Once Swan R2 emerged again on the far side of the sun, SETI and NASA's Deep Space Network jointly confirmed it had resumed emissions, but this time the signal had changed. Instead of pulses and bursts, it now transmitted in a spiral waveform modulated across multiple frequencies. When researchers began analyzing the harmonics, they discovered something chilling. It resembled the rotational frequencies of Earth's own tectonic plates. In other words, Swan R2 was mimicking Earth or possibly attempting to communicate using Earth's own natural frequencies. One frequency matched the Schumann resonance, a naturally occurring electromagnetic frequency that many believe influences human consciousness. Another mirrored the Morse-like pulse patterns of the Voyager probes. Could Swan R2 be attempting to communicate with Earth or with Voyager itself? And if it is, who is the intended recipient? Us or something waiting beyond? Just days after the signal shift, NASA released a low-profile update buried in the Voyager mission logs. Voyager 1 had autonomously reoriented itself, something it's not supposed to do without ground command. According to the log, the craft slightly adjusted its high-gain antenna by 2.4 degrees west toward the location of Swan R2. This is where things get bizarre. Voyager 1 is outside the heliopause in interstellar space. It should not be able to track internal solar system objects. And yet somehow it detected Swan R2. Moreover, the adjustment aligns perfectly with the time the gamma-ray burst occurred. It's almost as if Voyager heard the energy and responded. Engineers at JPL are baffled. The probe's last software update was decades ago. No AI on board, no reactive protocols. Yet here it was responding to something. Some believe Swan R2 sent a signal meant for Voyager specifically, perhaps recognizing it as a relic of intelligent life. Others fear the opposite. Voyager was pinged and answered. If that's the case, then something far beyond our world has now confirmed we're here. As Swan R2 continued its trajectory out of the solar periphery, a strange phenomenon was detected by the Galileo orbiter. An artificial eclipse-like shadow projected over Europa, one of Jupiter's most promising moons for harboring life. But this wasn't a natural eclipse that it lasted far longer than it should have and moved against the expected direction of Swan R2's path. Spectral analysis revealed that the shadow wasn't a result of mere blockage of light, but rather an interference pattern like the kind produced when high-energy waves overlap. Scientists began to suspect that Swan R2 was using a form of gravitational lensing or field projection, warping light itself as part of its propulsion or cloaking system. The implications were staggering. We weren't dealing with an object merely passing through. We were dealing with something capable of altering physics at a local level. Theories exploded. Was it shielding itself from something? Was it scanning Europa's icy surface for something buried beneath? Or worse, was it activating something? Images taken by James Webb's NIR camera ray during a brief unlit window revealed something that shouldn't exist inside the coma of a so-called comet. Deep inside the swirling cloud of gases surrounding Swan R2, a perfectly spherical structure was visible for precisely 0.37 seconds before vanishing again. But that moment was enough. It wasn't ice. It wasn't rock. It was metallic, smooth, and radiating an infrared with a temperature far too stable to be natural. And worse, the object had what analysts are now calling an iris, a darkened central void with a symmetrical ridge around it resembling an artificial eye. Immediately, the internet erupted in speculation. Was this an optical sensor, a camera, a receiver, or a biological structure inside a mechanical one? Experts in biomimicry pointed out that the geometry closely resembles deep-sea creatures that evolved to see in absolute darkness. Could this eye be designed to observe the cosmos in wavelengths far beyond human comprehension? Or worse, to watch us? Just when the world thought it couldn't get stranger, a team of independent researchers at MIT released a controversial paper after analyzing telemetry from Swan R2's signal bursts. What they found sent shock waves through the community. Several of the harmonics matched those used in Earth's own early satellite communication systems, particularly the frequency envelopes from Cold War-era Project Echo satellites. This raises a terrifying possibility. Either Swan R2 is mimicking human transmissions to facilitate communication, or it has already been listening to us for decades and is now responding in our own electromagnetic accent. One harmonic even matched the frequency of the original WOW signal detected in 1977. A frequency believed to be universally quiet in nature, chosen specifically for interstellar messaging. And if Swan R2 is using Earth-originated modulation as a template, it may mean that this object or whoever sent it has been waiting for us to be ready. Not to receive a message, but to understand one we were never meant to hear before. Now, finally, a breakthrough came from the unlikeliest of places. A collaboration between astrophysicists and AI pattern recognition researchers. They ran the transmission signal from SWAN R2 through a deep learning model trained to detect anomalies across multidimensional data. The result, a 3D topographical model began to emerge, not of the object, but of an area of deep space. Coordinates pointed to an unremarkable region near the constellation Lyra until radio telescopes focused on that location picked up a faint echo of SWAN R2's original signal bouncing back in an impossible pattern as if from a second source or a station waiting on the other end. When overlaid with previous exoplanet search data, the map aligned not with a known planetary body, but with a void, a region with zero visible matter, yet mathematically consistent with a Dyson-like cloaking field. SWAN R2 may not be just a scout. It could be a beacon lighting a path home or to something that doesn't want to be found. Whatever it is, it's not traveling alone. It's part of a network, and Earth is now on it. For decades, humanity has gazed into the void, sending signals, hoping to find a whisper in the silence. But what if the silence wasn't absence, it was surveillance? What if every unanswered message we ever launched, from Voyager's golden record to the WOW signal, wasn't ignored, but recorded? SWAN R2 is not just an object. It's not a comet. It's not a fluke. It's a messenger, a watcher, a trigger. Its perfect geometry, its controlled emissions, the gamma burst, the mimicry of Earth's old satellite frequencies, it all points to a disturbing realization. This was designed with intent. And if that's true, then this mysterious sphere 100 times larger than 3I Atlas isn't just a traveler through our solar system. It's a scout entering territory already mapped. The sun was its corridor, the signal, its fingerprint, and now we have answered it. Or worse, it has answered itself. Because here's the real question. If SWAN R2 is 100 times larger than 3 Atlas, what sent it? And if what sent it is listening now, then maybe we're not preparing for a visit. Maybe we've already been visited. We just didn't recognize the city because it was built in the dark. Thank you for joining us today on Why. Let us know your opinions in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen for more mind-bending content. Keep waiting for another exciting Why adventure, and until then, stay curious and stay tuned. This is Why, signing off.